After my healing, I became involved in, like I said, the World of Our Lady of Fatima. And I began in Rhode Island going to schools. I talked to the children in schools at first. And then when I became concerned of the statue, I was asked to go to different parishes. I go to churches, to hospitals, to nursing homes. I go to many places, and many beautiful stories have happened wherever the image of Our Lady goes. I just returned from the Diocese of Youngstown, Ohio. I've never gone to a diocese 2 years in a row. This was the first time. Many people came up and told me some beautiful prayers were answered from last year. One young woman who wasn't able to have a child for many years came up and showed me a beautiful little baby girl. She said, I prayed in August. My little girl was born May 9th. And a couple of others came up and told me the same story. The little boy had retinoblastoma, cancer of his eye. They said he would be blind and he may not survive because it was so devastating. The grandmother came up and brought him. He is very healthy. He can see well from the one eye that he does have, and he's going to school now and doing very well, which the doctor said it's an amazement. The doctors won't use the word, it was Our Lady, a miracle from Our Lady. Many beautiful things even happen on the plane. I must go in with the elderly, and usually I ride Southwest. I ride other lines too, but I usually have to sit in the first seat, and I take Mary out of her golf bag, and I put her in, I strap her in. Then everyone who comes on the plane goes by Mary. And many people will take pictures with their cell phones and their cameras, and they hold up the line of progression. And I'll get them a little packet that has a rosary, a little card, How to Pray the Rosary, and on Divine Mercy. And they all go back to their seats. And then sometimes on the planes, they'll come up and they'll talk to me while we're in flight. One gentleman told me his wife sent him up to speak with me. She was Catholic, he wasn't. She had lung cancer, end stage. She was going to a cancer center treatment. And she was praying that she would survive because she had surgery and chemotherapy and radiation, but it wasn't helping her much. And he talked to me and he said, my wife wanted me to ask you about the statue and if you would pray for her. I also have a relic of Jacinta Francisco in the tree Mary stood on. I brought the relic back and I prayed for her. I went back to my seat, and this man came up again. He asked me about Fatima. I told him a little bit about the story of Fatima and some of the beautiful things Our Lady does. Not just in healing, she gives people peace to accept God's will, be it in suffering in different ways, physical sufferings, maybe family issues, unemployment. We all have our crosses to carry. Our Lord and Our Lady never said, if you pray to me, you're going to have an easy life without suffering. But he went back to the seat after I talked to him about Fatima. Then going off the plane, he says, she's done something to me. My wife said she would. I'm going now. I'm going, when I go home, I'm going to look into the Catholic Church. I'm going to be a Catholic, as my wife has prayed for many years, because of what you told me about our Blessed Mother. I didn't believe in her. I thought it was adultery of all this phoniness with Our Lady. He said, I'll be a Catholic and I'll pray to her now too. Beautiful things like that. I work in the hospital, and I often bring the statue into the hospital to patients. Many of our patients, they have cancer. They all have it in the bone marrow transplant unit. But some of them aren't going to make it. But she gives them peace. She gives acceptance to families. There was one gentleman, he was a doctor. His wife was dying of cancer. She had a transplant, but it didn't take. He was very angry at Our Lord and Our Lady for not answering his prayers for healing. I brought Our Lady in, and his wife said, she's come to me, Joe, to prepare me for heaven. She wants to prepare you for my entrance into heaven. And he looked at Our Lady's statue and he says, I feel different now. With the statue of Mary here, I feel she is here, not just the statue. I feel Mary's here. She's going to take care of me when she takes you to heaven. And he asked for the Eucharist minister to come in to see him and his wife, because we didn't have a priest that night at the hospital. The Eucharistic community gave him and his wife communion, and his wife died the next day. you had to see them and to know the steps he took, the anger and the pain he was going through from the thought of losing a young wife, and they had no children. He said, I lived for her, but now he had that peace. He'll have that pain and sorrow of his loss, but he knows Mary's going to walk with him on his journey that God had made for him. God gives us all the journey, and his journey would be to love our Lord and Our Lady, and his wife would be praying for him in heaven beside Jesus and Mary.